We know there's at least 26 hormones and peptides that pull on the appetite tug of war inside your brain. So I don't want to say that, and it's not true that some people find it extremely difficult to not overeat, but there is no human alive who, if they stop eating carbon atoms or eat less of them than they breathe out, there's no human that won't lose weight. There are a couple of diseases like lipodemia, which is a terrible affliction that where people store fat and they can no longer, for very mysterious biochemical reasons, they can't get the fat back out of their fat cells. So, for people with those sorts of conditions, they can't get rid of the weight because they have a genetic issue going on. So I'm referring to people who well, let me take a step back there. For the people with lipodemia, if they eat less carbon atoms than they breathe out, they will still end up losing some weight, but it's very hard for them to budge the fat from certain parts of their body. It's really complicated when you get down to the level of what's going in and out of fat cells, but if you just zoom out and remember that every time you inhale, you've breathed in oxygen, but when you exhale, you're breathing out some carbon as well as oxygen. Therefore, your body is always losing a bit of mass. And it's not like this is news, if you look up the early research done by NASA and probably the Russians as well on putting humans into space, they went and figured out precisely, exactly how much stuff comes out of a person through their bladder, through their rectum, through their lungs and their skin. And it's all being published in NASA technical reports. We know how much carbon a human loses through their lungs every day. Submariners in submarines studied it even earlier, because the problem with exhaled carbon dioxide, which we don't often think about because we're not often in a confined space, but if you lock yourself into an airtight container that's not very big and you just sit in there and breathe, very quickly the carbon dioxide levels go up and up and up and up. And once they get to a few percent, you're going to start to feel very dizzy, and you'll die if you don't get out into fresh air, because not only are you consuming the oxygen in there, you're poisoning the air with carbon dioxide, which, a little bit's not poison, but when carbon dioxide levels get up to 5%, you're starting to get into really big trouble.
Right.
So we're always losing carbon, we're always losing weight, 24 hours a day. So the answer is, when you're losing weight, the weight that you're losing, fat, is made out of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and only those three elements. So that's element number 1, element number 6, and element number 8 on the periodic table for the nerds out there. And when you are losing the weight, you are converting this substance called fat into carbon dioxide and water, and all of the carbon dioxide you breathe out and all of the water comes out of you. Either it can come out as sweat, urine, tears. So the thing that I thought that was the most fascinating fact of all, if I'm losing weight, I'm turning it into carbon dioxide and water. The next question that I had, being a physics nerd, was, if I'm losing it in these two ways, carbon dioxide and water, how much of the weight that I lose do I exhale, and how much of that weight becomes water, which I can lose in all those other ways? And this number knocked me for six. The fact that when you lose 10 kilograms or 10 pounds, or 10, whatever units of measure you like, if you're losing 10 kilograms, 8.4 of them you exhale as carbon dioxide, and the 1.6 kilograms remaining that becomes water, which is bit over 1.5 liters of water. It's a lot of water. All of that water ends up in your body water, mixed with your, all the water that you drink. We call it metabolic water. It's water that you made out of atoms that you inhaled, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms that you ate. You marry those up in, it's called the electron transport chain, this part of the metabolism or the metabolic pathway. But you're making fresh water molecules out of what was oxygen in the air and what was hydrogen in your food. and you make 1.6 liters out of that water when you lose 10 kilograms of weight, which is, again, just wonderful stuff to know. I don't know that it helps anyone particularly. It's just such cool stuff.